On the video, my name is Larry Manley, Carolina Division Manager. We're going to video this workshop. It's in mid-March in the Raleigh Pilot office. Say hey, Raleigh Pilot. Alright, so we're making this video to help out all of our representatives this coming summer with recommendations. And maybe throughout the fall and spring as well. So guys, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about how do you, A, get more recommendations, B, how do you qualify those recommendations so you can see better people, and C, how can you get not only more recommendations, but even a higher quality and caliber recommendations. So that's really the objective, to get more recommendations, get better recommendations, and then see your best people. There are several ways you can raise your average order with Cutco. But one of the easiest ways is to see better people, right? You may have seen representatives that have a $300, $400, $500 average order, and we have some representatives in this room, right? Especially the last few weeks, right? That have had, I know David's been lighting it up, and several others have been lighting it up with big orders. Well, it's hard to get a big order from somebody that's going paycheck to paycheck. I'm not saying they have to be rich, but they do have to have a means. Now, over 5 months, $200, $300 a month, that's a $1,000 or $1,500 order. You don't have to be rich to be able to afford a couple $100 a month, right? The average family spends probably, I would say, $600 or so, $600 to $800 on groceries per month. So a couple $100, you don't have to be rich, but you do have to have a means. So let's talk about this. First thing we need to do is if you have your white manual, go to page 21. If you do not have your white manual, no big deal. In the future, always bring your white manual and pen and paper to every team meeting, though. If you don't have it, raise your hand. We can get you a quick copy of the recommendation approach, no problem at all. And if you need a pen, make sure you ask, because you're going to definitely want to write some stuff down. And make sure you have something to write on, because you're going to want to take some good notes. So have a magazine or a blue book or something to write on. All right? All right.
Anybody else?
Anybody need a blue book to write on? Here we go.
Oh, I got you. Oh, I got you.
Here's a clipboard to write on if somebody needs it. Does anybody else need something? There you go. Okay. All right, guys, let's dig in. And Mr. Winchester, I'm going to sit down here, so I don't know if
oh, you're good.
it's on there.
Yeah.
All right, guys, here we go. First things first. Page 21. Recommendations equal presentations equal sales and income. Obviously, that's common sense. We all know that. The best time to handle an objection is when? Before you get it. So if you're not seeing these lead-in questions, I would. By the way, guys, keep in mind also, you may be like, Larry, I tried it once and it didn't work. Or, be careful of falling into that type of logic or thinking. Right? I tried it once and it didn't work. This isn't like eating spinach and you tried it once and it sucked and you never want to eat spinach again. Right? Right? Like I used to tell my boys when they were small, don't cry till you try. Right? You got to try stuff. Right? Well, this isn't like that. Every client's going to be different. But if you don't do this on a regular basis, I would try it for your next 10 appointments and see if it helps. And that's the lead-in questions. Most of you in the pilot probably already asked these. I know we teach you these. But if not, you want to ask. Lead-in questions in your recommendation approach. That's why there's 3 lines at the top of the approach, right? First question is what? Hey, Ms. Jones, did you enjoy the presentation? All right, and she 99.9% of the time says, yeah, sure I did. Cool. And then the next one, guys, I would ask if they like Cutco. Now, if they ordered a Homemaker Plus 8 from you, I would not say it like, now, did you like Cutco? Right? I would say, hey, obviously, Miss Jones, you got the Homemaker, you're going to love it. Obviously, you like Cutco. And she's going to be like, yeah, of course. But even if it's a no sale, I would say, hey, Miss Jones, I know today you didn't get anything, but did you like the product? Were you impressed? Okay, cool. So tailor that question depending on your client. All right? But you got to make sure they answer, yes, I like Cutco. And by the way, guys, those are 2 yes questions. All right? So it puts them in a positive frame of mind. Now, the next one's actually going to be a no question. All right? Very rarely do I teach you a no question, but this one I think is very valuable. And that is, hey, Ms. Jones, can you think of any reason, if someone had the time, that they wouldn't want to take a quick look at Cutco? Or can you think of any reason someone wouldn't want to take a quick look at Cutco? comma, don't say that. If they have the time. Can you think of any reason somebody wouldn't want to take a quick look at Cutco if they had the time? Very rarely, if ever, will they give you a reason. Right? Because you said if they had the time. Sometimes you'll get, well, no, I guess if they had the time. Right? But even guys, if you've tried that before and you did get a negative response, I guarantee you, you won't get that very often at all. It's a very rare thing. So don't, you know, I had a representative once that said, yeah, I tried it one time, and they're like, yeah, I don't think they'd want to look at it or something. It just had a negative response. And that's the 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 50 clients that's going to be that negative, where they just lied to you because they really didn't even enjoy the presentation because they couldn't enjoy anything in life because they're so negative. They go around looking, you know, like they're weaning on a pickle or something. You know? So don't worry about that type of client. All right, does that make sense? All right. So very rarely, if ever, we get it. 90 to 95 to 99% of the time, they're going to be like, and you'll see them think. If you ask it seriously in the right way, they'll look up with their eyes and they'll be like, not if they had the time. Great. Here's where you can really help me out. All right? Or actually, you'd go into automatic sponsorship at that point, but same token, same mindset, all right? So it's like, oh, great. Well, Ms. Jones, do you remember that automatic sponsorship I told you about at the beginning? Okay. Well, there's one more very important part. See, here's where you can really help me out. See, I get paid every time I show Cutco, and I can only call people I've been personally recommended to. So what I really need you to do when I'm writing up the order and cleaning up is jot down 10 to 15 people who might be nice enough to help me out. I'm not looking for people you think will buy, just people who might take a look. All right, now if you're in your white manual, if you haven't made those changes, there's a couple changes I just threw at you. So let's get a quick TO, quick Terra Owens here, quick timeout. All right, let's review this. First of all, can you think of any reason someone wouldn't want to take a quick look at Cutco if they had the time? They're going to think for a second, say, nah. Okay, great. Well, do you remember that automatic sponsorship I told you about at the beginning? You're like, yeah. Well, hey, let me tell you about this, all right? There's one more very important part. See, here's where you can really help me out. See, I get paid every time I show Cutco. And I can only call people I've been personally recommended to. So what I really need you to do, if you don't have the word really in there, I would jot that in. I really need you to do, while I'm writing up the order and cleaning up, is jot down. Now, you may throw out a different number there, and that's okay. But you cannot say a few, you can't say a couple, you can't say some. You have to give a number. And 10 to 15 should be the lowest it is. Because if you ask for 10 to 15, human nature dictates that oftentimes you'll get 5 to 10. If you ask for 5 to 10, you're probably going to get 2 to 5. So you at least want to ask for 10 to 15. I'm going to teach you how to handle an objection there, though, because what do some clients say right then? They interrupt you, right? What do they say?
Don't know that many people.
Oh, I don't know 10 to 15 people. No way. I can't think of that many people. Right? Or you say 15 to 20, and they're like, what, 15 to 20? You must be crazy. They look at you like you have 2 heads, right? I can't think of that many people. I may be able to give you a couple. Right? I'm going to teach you how to handle that in just a second. All right? Let's continue. Let's assume you didn't get that, then you keep rolling. All right? Now, you might say, hey, Larry, I heard and my manager told me to ask for 200 to 300. I like that if you're getting the correct response from the client. See, you have to pull that off very well to do that and get the correct response. Meaning timing is important. Voice inflection is important. See, you want to say it seriously, but only for a second or two and then move on to, I'm just kidding. I've seen some representatives say, yeah, I need 200 to 300 people who might be nice enough to take a look. I'm not looking for people to buy, and they just keep going. And the customer doesn't even know they're kidding. Right? So if you get the correct response is this. The client's like, whoa, really? And then you say, I'm just kidding, Miss Jones. And they're like, oh, they laugh. They're like, oh, okay, he's funny. Right? Do you see what I mean? If they don't laugh and think you're funny, because that was a joke, then don't keep telling the joke. Does that make sense? Pretty common sense, right? You tell a joke, you think it's funny, they don't think it's funny, then you don't keep telling the joke. That's what I do. I say a lot of stupid jokes. They're not funny, so I just move on to other jokes. Law of averages, sooner or later I'm going to say something funny. Not very often, right? You guys have been around, you know. Occasionally. Alright? Alright. So what I really need you to do when I'm writing up the order, let me give you the 2 to 300 timing and voice inflection if you want to use it, right? What I really need you to do when I'm writing up the order and cleaning up is jot down 2 to 300 people. I'm just kidding, Miss Jones. Really, just 10 to 15 who might be nice enough to help me out. Now, if you can pull that off the correct way and get the correct response, there's a value there. Do you guys understand that? What's the value? 10 to 15 sounds like nothing then. Remember, the best way to handle an objection is when? Before you get it. So if you're getting that 10 to 15, I can't think of that, you might do the 2 to 300. I'm just kidding, Miss Jones. It's 10 to 15, really. And it sounds like nothing compared to 2 to 300. All right, does everybody understand what I'm saying there? Okay. Who might be nice enough to help me out. I don't know if you've noticed this. I've gone through the approach a couple times, and you might be like, Larry, I can read the approach. Give me the goods. Give me the meat. And we're going to get to some more meat. But if you don't do the approach with confidence, it doesn't really matter what I teach you after this. You have to do the approach with confidence. And 2 key words in the approach are might. Right here. Who might be nice enough to help me out. The next sentence. I'm not looking for people who would buy, just people cross out nice like you to take a look, or cross out nice like you. I mean, we're not saying they're not nice, but we're not going to say that. We're going to say, I'm not looking for people, cross out necessary. I'm not looking for people who would buy, just people who might take a look. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when you say people who might take a look, who are you including? Anyone and everyone. They open up their brains and they're thinking just anybody. Does that make sense to everyone? So just anyone who might take a look. Then you want to say, hey, the way the sponsorship program works is for every 10 you give me, you can be a sponsor, and if you give me 20, you can be a double sponsor, or whatever your office program is. Right? And to be a sponsor, as soon as I get 100 sponsors or whatever your program is, then I get a Cutco award where I can use it to help buy books for school if you're a student. If you're not a student, you have to say, I'm going to use it to give to, I'm going to sell it and give it to charity, this charity, or I'm going to use it for this. It's got to be something personal that means a lot. If you're a student, I love to say, hey, Ms. Jones, you can actually help me buy a couple books next semester because I'm going to get this free Cutco, I'm going to get it and sell it and use it to buy books for next semester. Or if you have a charity that means something to you, I love that. Or if you're spiritual or you do mission trips, you could say, hey, I'm going to use it to save it up for save up for my next mission trip or whatever. Something that means something to you. All right, does that make sense? Okay, that's key right there for the sponsorship. So in the sponsorship, you want to briefly explain it as quickly as possible. That's clear, and then give a reason why you want this free Cutco to sell it to get X, Y, Z. All right, if you say to throw a great party on campus in September, that's not going to be as motivating to most middle-aged clients. All right? Yeah, Ms. Jones, I'm going to use it. I'm going to buy a bunch of beer. No, I wouldn't go there. All right? Does that make sense? So, but I'm going to use it and save it up for a mission trip, or I'm going to use it to help you buy books for college, or I'm going to use it for this charity I want to do. But if you say that to a client, then you should plan on using it for that charity, of course. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? Yes. Yes in the video? Yes. All right. So here's a pen and paper. All right? Here you go, Brian. Here's a pen and paper. Put down as many as you can. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your help. Now, Brian's typing on his laptop right here. Why did he take my pen from me? I handed it to him. Give my pen back. I handed it to him. Right? So you hand it to them. Get it in their hands. Don't sit it on the table. Get it in their hands. And slide the recommendation approach to them. All right? Another little tip is on 10 recommendations, put a star beside the 10th line. Beside the 20th line, put a double star or asterisk or whatever. Something that signifies that. Single sponsor, double sponsor, gives them a target to shoot for. All right? Another little tip. I'm going to just throw a potpourri of little nuggets at you now. Another tip. if you have a record number of recommendations that's over 10, if you've never gotten more than 10, then the first thing you need to do is actually learn your recommendation approach. Because either A, you don't know it, or B, you're not saying it with confidence, or C, both. All right, does that make sense? So you got to say it with confidence. You can't be wimpy. All right? By the way, 5th bullet down. That's where most representatives mess up. Most representatives do it fine until the 5th bullet, and then sometimes. And by the way, I don't mean most like the majority. I mean most like the majority who are not getting good recommendations. So if you have a problem with recommendations, and you're not averaging at least 5 to 10, then I would look at the 5th bullet and say to yourself, I say the 5th bullet, but I change a word or two. And here's what you probably change. You probably say the 5th bullet like this. So what I really would like you to do when I'm writing up the order and cleaning up, if you could, is jot down 10 or 15, or jot down 5 or 10, and you throw in, if you know, what I'd like you to do if you could, or and if you could gets in there. And then a lot of times you don't say 10 to 15. And you might be like, Larry, how can I have confidence saying 10 to 15 when the most I've ever gotten is 4? Hey, sometimes you have to act as if. Sometimes you have to act as if first. That's like saying, well, Larry, I'm not positive. How can I act positive if I don't feel positive? Well, keep acting negative and you'll never feel positive. Right? You ever meet somebody that always says they're tired? And guess what? They're always tired. Because they always say, I'm tired. Act as if you have energy and you'll become more energetic. Does that make sense to everyone? So that's really key there. It's got to be, hey, what I really need you to do. And by the way, you're not saying it a commandment. It's not, hey, what I need you to do, Mrs. Jones, now. Remember, I got the knives. You're not saying it like that. You're not saying it like that. You're saying, hey, Mrs. Jones, what I almost like a plea, like what I really need you to do, while I'm writing up the order and cleaning up, is jot down 10 to 15 people who might be nice enough to help me out. All right, does that make sense? So it's a plea. All right. Little nugget. If you have a record that's over 10, if they start writing down a few names, see what you're going to do is you're going to write up the order first, then clean up. Never clean up your knives first. If it's a no sale, clean up your knives very slowly. And reorganize your blue book and your folder and everything. Okay? Out of your peripheral vision, if they start writing down names and they're cruising, as soon as they get to over 5, I would throw out your record to them. If it's over 10. Hey, Ms. Jones, I've only been doing this a few weeks, but my record's 17. It'd be so cool if you could break it. All right? And by the way, that doesn't work with every client, but some clients are somewhat competitive, and that'll work with the competitive ones. All right, does that make sense? Now, you may have noticed what I threw in there. I've only been doing this a few weeks. Obviously, if you've been here a year, you can't say that. You have to be honest. But you could say, if you say you've been here 2 months, you could say, yeah, I haven't been doing this very long, and my record's only 17. I bet you could break it, Ms. Jones. Do you see how you can say it so 17 doesn't sound too big? Yeah, I've only been doing this a short time, Ms. Jones, and my record so far is only 17. I bet you could break it, though. Wouldn't that be cool? So you don't want the record to sound unattainable or like it's this huge number. Now, if somebody gave you a directory of 400, I would use your written down record. You know, what somebody actually wrote for you. I would be like, now my record's 400. You see what I'm saying? All right. It's got to be somewhat attainable and not sound like it's too big. Human nature dictates that as human beings, we don't try to acquire something if we don't see it as attainable. Does that make sense? Okay. So, a couple other nuggets here. All right. For you guys that are here live, first row right here. I need you to help me out. Ready? Participation. Off the top of your head, without looking in your cell phone or any directories or anything like that, how many names and phone numbers of your friends could you write down without looking at anything? Without looking at your cell phone? 4? 5? 3 to 5? 0? 5. So if you take the average, I just averaged about 3 recommendations. Maybe 4. 3.75, I think it was. You got the idea. All right? Now you might be like, Larry, what's your point? My point is, most clients can't just rattle off 10 or 15 phone numbers without getting something out. So you have to give them a reason to get something out. That something out you want is a cell phone or a directory of some sort, or a address book. So why not let them know why most people do this? Now you might say, Larry, most of my customers haven't been doing this. Well, you don't have to say most of your customers. You can just say a lot of people do this. Hey, Miss Jones, you know what a lot of people do? Because it makes it so easy for them? Is they just grab out their cell phone or their address book. Can you grab that real quick for me? Be direct, but nice. See, guys, one thing we haven't talked about is you have to build rapport in the beginning, and they have to like you. All right? The more they like you, the more recommendations they're going to give you. We already got the product covered, right? And I bet they like you too. So don't be afraid to say, hey, you know what a lot of people do, Miss Jones, is they just grab out their address book or cell phone because it makes it so much easier for them. I got all this